In my last video, I said my MLB 2016 playoff predictions would be next. Here they are, guys. Please go easy on me. This was a tough decision. I just didn't make these picks off the top of my head. I looked at rosters. I thought about what really could be the outcome. So go easy on me, because it wasn't an easy decision for me to make these picks, especially in the National League. Before we get started, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and leave me a comment down below. Tell me how you think the playoffs are going to play out. And remember, these are just my opinion. Let's start with the American League wildcard game. Already kind of touched on this a little bit. Orioles going to Toronto. Jays hosting this wildcard game after having an up and down season. Projected starters: Ubaldo Jimenez for the Orioles, Francisco Liriano for the Jays. I've already kind of touched on it. I think the Jays are going to win in dramatic fashion, possibly in extra innings and coming from behind. And I say that because I respect the Orioles as a team. Can't take anything away from their offense. They've got a very good pitching staff, a decent bullpen, and a good closer in Zach Britton. Toronto, better bullpen, more consistent bullpen this year. And, their offense is among the best in baseball. So is their rotation this year. And I'm picking Toronto to win that wild card game. That means Toronto would play the Rangers in a rematch of last year's ALDS. And, you couldn't script that better, and I hope that's the way it plays out. Before we get into that series, let's talk about Boston at Cleveland. Now, Cleveland, in my opinion, has been a big surprise this year. 94 wins. They've got a very good team, a very underestimated team, in my opinion, in terms of their offense. And they match up well, pitching-wise, with Boston, who, compared to in years past, yes, they have David Price, but I don't think they have the depth in the rotation that they once had. But offense-wise, you got to give the edge to Boston. Going to be a very close series, guys. Don't take anything away from both teams. It could go either way. And while I would love to see Cleveland win this series and upset Boston, even though they're hosting the series to start with, I think Boston, their offense, their consistency, their battle-tested mentality is going to edge Cleveland in a very close series. 5 games, I'm picking Boston. Let's go back to the Blue Jays and the Rangers for a minute. Again, going to be a very close series. Rematch from last season. Texas is going to want payback. There's rivalries, beyond just those two teams, Ruben Anador and Jose Bautista, got into a scrap earlier this year. When you talk about these two teams, they're both different from last season. And I think they match up evenly. And I think pitching-wise, it's even. Offense, Toronto, I would give them an edge when they're on their game. And I'm picking Toronto in 5 games. Now, I don't mean to tick people off, and I am Canadian, and I know I'm picking my team, but I really do think it's going to go 5 games, and Toronto is going to come from behind again and win in dramatic fashion. Nothing is going to come easy to Toronto in this postseason, and they're going to win in 5 games. That would mean that Boston and Toronto would play in the American League Championship game, or Championship Series, and I'll tell you right now, if Boston's going to win, it's going to be over in 6, which could be the case, starting the series at Fenway. It's a tough place to play because it's a small ballpark. You got to deal with the Green Monster. However, for those of you who watched this final series, the Jays versus Boston, they handled the Green Monster just fine. Their backs were against the wall even to get into the playoffs, and they needed to beat Boston, and they scratched out 2 very close wins. And I think over a 7-game series, it would much be the same. Close games. I'm picking Toronto, and I know that would put them into the World Series, which right now seems like a long shot, but when you compare Toronto, pitching, offense, defense, when they're on their game and playing up to their potential, they are among the best in baseball, and they match up well with Boston. And I think over a 7-game series, you got to give the edge to Toronto's starting rotation. Maybe Boston has a bit better bullpen with Koji O'Hara and Craig Kimbrel and those guys. So if Boston's going to win, they got to jump all over Toronto early. But I think the longer the series goes, the more it favors Toronto. Boston's going to want to finish them off in 4 games if they can. If this goes any more than 5 games, Toronto's got life. Trust me. And I'm picking Toronto in 7. And that's just my picks. Let's start with the National League. Or continue with the National League, sorry. National League wildcard game. Giants and the Mets. And I want to let you know that when I say these were tough picks, I originally had the Giants penciled in to win this 1-game playoff, but when you compare them to the Mets have, even with the Mets injuries that they have right now, and there's a lot of them in their pitching rotation, bullpen, infield, all of that, the Mets still have a better offense and than the Giants. And I think the Giants match up well pitching wise. And in a 1-game playoff, anything can happen. Not taking anything away from the Giants, but I think the Mets are much like Toronto in the sense that when they're on their game, their offense is tough to beat because they can put up a lot of runs, and they've got the pitching to back them up. And the Giants, while they have a good starting rotation, I think their offense can really let them down. And I'm projecting this as not only who I think can win, but who I think can go the furthest. And I'm picking the Mets. That means the Mets would play the Cubs. And before we get into that series, let's talk about the other National League Division series, Dodgers and Nationals. Now, I'm a Dodgers fan. I like the Dodgers. Love Clayton Kershaw. But the Dodgers have a lot of injuries right now, pitching injuries. And once you get past Clayton Kershaw, even though the Dodgers have a decent offense, still, I think the Nationals, better pitching overall, and over the course of a 5-game series, that would be evident, and it would show, and I think that's what's going to save the Nationals. So I'm saying the Nationals in 5 games wouldn't be overly surprised if it was over in 4. I just don't think it's going to be the Dodgers' year. Had faith in them last year, and they disappointed me. And with the injuries they have, given that what I've read is accurate, I'm picking the Nationals. And let's go back to the Mets and the Cubs. And again, I think, not taking anything away from the Cubs, they have a very good starting rotation, and I think if they were going to beat the Mets, or if anybody was going to beat the Mets before the World Series, it would be the Cubs. And I really, I kind of want to pick the Cubs, but I think, again, when you look at the Mets offense, if they play up to their potential, it's going to be hard for anybody to beat them. And I'm picking the Mets in 5 games. I know I always pick the maximum, but I think that's just how close these series are going to be. Nobody's going to run away with these with the postseason this year. Everybody is so evenly matched. Picking the Mets in 5 games. Mets and Nationals. I kind of want the Nationals, but again, I think the Mets match up a little bit better. I like Noah Syndergaard and Jake DeGrom better than Steven Strasburg and Max Scherzer. Wouldn't be surprised if the Nationals were ahead in the National League Championship Series, but I think the Mets will come from behind, upset the Nationals, and move on to the World Series. And that would mean my predictions are Toronto Blue Jays and the New York Mets. And again, I am so conflicted on who to pick. I think the series easily goes 7 games, and you know, the Mets could definitely win. But again, if it comes down to the Mets and Toronto, the Mets are going to want to finish Toronto off early. From the brief playoff history that the Jays have had recently, they've shown that they can come back. They can hang around. And, they're never really out of it. So, if the Mets win, I'm predicting it'll be over in 5 games. And Toronto will just, nothing will go their way. And it'll just be over quickly. However, I think the Jays can win this series in 6 games. Because I'm pretty sure, I don't know who would host that series. Probably the Mets would. But I'm not sure. I haven't looked at the records closely enough. So I'm saying Toronto in 6 there. For once, I didn't pick the series to go to max. And that would mean that Toronto would be your 2016 World Series champions. And the reason I'm saying this is because not only do I really truly believe that it can happen, guys, but if you follow the Blue Jays at all, you know that next season is going to the Toronto Blue Jays are going to look very different than what they do right now. So this is Toronto's year to win. Much like it was Kansas City's year to win last year, because, well, look what happened to them. So I'm thinking that's why I'm picking the Blue Jays. Not saying they're going to run away with it, not saying it's going to be easy. And, along the way, trust me, I'm probably going to have my doubts about the picks that I made. But I'm picking Toronto to win the World Series, and I'm confident about it this year because of the way that I've seen them play, especially in the last series that they had versus Boston. Could have gone very differently. It didn't. They look like they're rounding into playoff form. Can't wait, guys. Playoffs are going to be awesome. Again, be sure to give this video a like. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and please support me. And enjoy the playoffs, guys. Tell me how you think it's going to play out, and I'll see you next time.